Hi, and welcome back to my podcast. For today's episode, I thought about discussing another interesting topic, and that is feedback. In my view, feedback is the engine of growth. There is no other tool that you as a manager have that can help shape people the way feedback can. I also believe it is strongly unutilized, and that is due to the reluctancy of giving feedback, but also the reluctancy to accept it. This is a two-way street and very much related to cultural background also. In some situations, feedback is perceived as criticism and we tend to ignore it. So let's see, what is feedback, how do you share it efficiently, and how to make sure our message as leaders gets heard. The way I would define feedback in a professional context is the action of providing constructive input regarding somebody's actions, interventions, aimed to improve their ability to deliver. Even though this is not an easy exercise, especially when you are just starting your people management journey, there are some simple tips that you can follow to make the process smoother. You must remember that feedback is an incredible management tool that will help you change people's professional trajectory. Tip 1 in giving feedback is privacy. If you are sharing inputs on a specific person's work, make sure whatever you say is done in a one-to-one session. Never use a team meeting, for example, to discuss individual performance or behavior. Second tip is being prepared with relevant data, facts around the circumstance you will feedback on. These must be very specific and coming from your own observations. It is definitely not okay to use things you heard from others as a base for a feedback conversation. Tip 3. Be concise. This type of discussion should not be lengthy and should not deviate from the initial topic. Tip 4. If you are sharing negative feedback, for example, make sure you also bring up something positive that the employee has done just to balance the conversational overload. Tip 5. Always share the impact of somebody's actions so they understand the full picture. Maybe they delayed a task and that impacted customer satisfaction or the overall team schedule. Tip 6. Address the behavior or the action or lack of action, never the person directly. This will make the feedback a lot easier to accept, and to be honest, this tip also applies to personal relationships. Tip 7. Ask for their feedback too, but make sure you keep the discussion on the same topic, concise and factual. It is important to also give some power back to the employee and allow him or her to share their view. Tip 8. Suggest improvement plan in case there is a need for it. This one action item must be followed up with. Just suggesting an improvement but not looking into the progress is useless and not benefiting the employee's growth. Tip 9. Schedule a follow-up discussion to make sure the improvement actions have been progressed. Now that I gave you the tips as an overall piece of advice, try to build a culture of feedback in your team so that they use this instrument between themselves, with you as well, because even as leaders, we must also receive feedback from our team members and correct parts of us that don't fit the environment. To make this episode even more relevant, I will do a mock feedback session so you can exactly see how it should go. Hi, Steve, and thank you for agreeing to meet with me on such a short notice.
Hi, Andrea. Sure. I am just curious, what is it about?
It is actually about the project implementation and the briefing session you had with the customer.
I believe that it went quite well, to be honest, with some bumps on the way, but we delivered.
Yes, you and your team did a great job planning and overseeing the project completion. However, there were several aspects we could improve going further, and this is what I want to discuss with you today.
Now you made me curious, but more than happy to hear your thoughts.
I had a meeting with a customer yesterday, and there were 2 points of complaint. One around the fact that project end date was pushed 2 times, and that has big impact on his release. And second, around your lack of response to 3 emails he sent looking for progress update right before release.
Yeah, I know we had some hiccups, but I had two team members on leave, and sticking to the original plan was very hard. As for the emails, I was with the team working side by side so we can deliver on time. Outlook was not a priority for me.
I totally get your point, and I know we worked under some special circumstances. However, I do think we should have some lessons learned from this. One would be around approving leaves right before a deployment. You either have a coverage mechanism in place to ensure no project gets impacted, or you try to postpone the leaves until we are in a good position from a work perspective. As far as the emails go, I admire the fact that you worked side by side with your team, but you also have a responsibility with your customer, so that must take priority. Next time, maybe you come to me and I can keep the conversation going with the client so nobody gets hurt. What do you think about what I said so far?
I do appreciate the honest feedback, and now I see that I could have handled this better. But I really wanted to get it right, being my first self driven deployment. I will consider your suggestions and do it better next time.
Thank you again for all your effort. You did well, and do pass my thanks to the team also. And remember, feedback is a pathway to growth, and I am confident you learned a lot from this situation. This is just a simple example of how you can handle a feedback conversation so that it turns out benefiting the employee and the business as well. I do hope you found this episode useful. See you next time for more interesting content.